when we're finding the exact equation, we're starting off based on what our roots are. Remember, roots are the same thing as x-intercepts. They might also be referred to as zeros. So we have an x-intercept at -3 and an x-intercept at y. So we're using those to form our basic equation. So step 1 is write your basic equation. So in this particular one, if we have a root at -3, that means we have a factor at x plus 3. And because that root bounces, because it comes down and touches the x-intercept and goes back up, we know, based on what we learned last class, that that has an exponent that has to be what? Even. So I'm going to go ahead and use squared because that's the easiest way to do this. And then if it crosses through at 4, that means I have a factor at x minus 4. So the reason, for those of you who didn't quite get it last class, the reason these are opposites, if I put in -3 right here, then I'm going to get 0 for this factor. And if I multiply 0 by anything, the whole thing is going to be 0. So when I'm in factored form, when I find my zeros, I'm finding my x-intercepts, because y equals 0 all along the x-axis. So the thing that I'm going to do next is simply add a to that. So write your basic equation and add a to the front. No, that's a good question. So the question over here was, do we need to make it negative? Because this is ending down, and we don't, because when we do the math should come out to give us a negative number. So I'm going to scooch this up since you guys have that graph already written. The next thing I'm going to do is just like what we did way back in chapter 1. And I'm going to plug in the x and y from that passing through point. Sorry, I have a paper clip under there. And that passing through point from our graph, I'll come right back down, is that 3, 9. You don't want to use one of your x-intercepts because that will mess it up. But you use a point that's not on your x-axis. So what that looks like, I'm going to take this equation and put 9 in for y. I don't know what a is, and then I'm going to put 3 in for all of my x's. So 3 plus 3 squared, and then 3 minus 4. So next, I need to simplify and solve. So the thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is the order of operations. If you don't need to write this down, then don't write it down, but I'm going to review briefly. When you're simplifying to solve for a, when you simplify, that is operations in the parentheses first, then your exponents, then your multiplication and division, and then your addition and subtraction. So there's only going to be so far that you can simplify before you have to solve before you have to use your solving steps. So when I simplify this, I can drop down the 9 equals and the a, and I'm going to show every single step in between here. I'm not requiring that you show all your steps because it is a little bit excessive, but I do want you to show the majority of your work. So here I just added what was in the parentheses, so 3 plus 3 and 3 minus 4. Don't forget to bring down your squared. That's a really common problem or a common mistake that people make. Then I'm going to do my exponents. So 9 equals a times 36 times negative 1. And then 9 equals a times negative 36. I'm keeping parentheses around that negative 36 because I don't want it to look like that's a minus 36, because then people make the mistake of adding 36 to both sides, and you don't want to do that. This is a times negative 36, so what's your next step going to be? Divide by negative 36. So a is going to equal negative, and then what does 9 divided by 36, or 9 over 36, what does that reduce to? 1/4, because 9 and 36 are both divisible by 9. So 9 divided by 9 gives me 1, 36 divided by 9 gives me 4. And then my very last step is just to rewrite my equation. So rewrite the full equation. I can't see that very well. So that's going to be y equals negative 1/4 x plus 3 squared x minus 4. So as you can see, we had a negative direction on that original graph. And because we did all of our math right, our a came out as a negative number, which it should do if we did everything correctly. So you don't have to worry about adding in that negative if you know that it has a negative orientation, because the math should end up coming out that way. All right, that is it for the note. So I will grab your worksheet for you.